What's up, everybody? It's waba, and I wanted to make a little video talking about everyone's favorite, my favorite, Siege Ballista, and how you could potentially play it in 3.2. Now, this is all kind of depending on one thing, okay? The one thing is if Siege Ballista, if Tailwind essentially works for Totem Placement Speed. The way Tailwind is supposed to work is essentially a more multiplier for your attack speed, your cast speed, your move speed, and it's supposed to increase the speed of your actions. And I have a feeling that this does work with Totem Placement Speed, and you still could do Deadeye with Siege Ballista if you wanted to, even if it didn't work. But you know, the one thing that kind of sucks is like when you have a really high movement speed or a lot of mobility, it kind of sucks when your skill, your damage dealing skill, is considerably slower. So you know, it makes the build feel clunky. Like if you were running at 250% movement speed, but then for you to attack, it took you, you know, you had a 1.25 second attack animation, it would feel really shit. Like you're just running at 100 miles per hour just to slow-mo hit something in the face. It just doesn't feel very good. But if Gathering Winds does work with Totem Placement Speed, it will make for a very nice feeling Siege Ballista build. And here's the other thing too. Aside from the Siege Ballista memery, which I completely understand. I mean, frankly, I'm kind of tired of talking about the builds that I have played for so long and make so many videos on. The other thing that's nice about this is you could make this a league starter, and then you could easily transition to something else. You could transition into a Wind Ripper build. You could transition into a physical split arrow build with a 6-Lake Harbinger. You could do these things. You could go Doomfletch after this if you wanted to. You could do all sorts of things. That's one of the nice things about Siege Ballista, and I think it's something that people kind of overlook when it comes down to it. So yeah, and obviously I'll probably make another video about Champion Siege Ballista or the other variations of Siege Ballista very soon. Heisendong is actually considering a Hierophant Siege Ballista build that is currently at 9 ballistas, but we'll see where he goes with that, and if he's going to be doing that. Like I said, having too many Siege Ballistas is very memey, and it's a little weird. Anyway, let's talk about it. Obviously, so Deadeye got a change. Gathering Winds gives you 1,000 evasion while you have Tailwind, which is pretty good. If you've used a skill recently, you and nearby allies have Tailwind, which Siege Ballista, honestly, has been a pretty good build for grouping. People don't want to give it its credit, but it is. And then 10% increased effect of Tailwind on you for each skill you've used recently up to 100%. You will be moving fast. You will maintain, you know, maximum Tailwind effect with this. You're going to go Far Shot. It's going to give you more damage as projectiles travel further, which is, you know, it's kind of nice. Honestly, you could probably go Rupture if you wanted to for more crit and crit multi, but it's up to you. This would probably give you more like a more even damage curve, while this one would give you something that's like a little bit better for like as your projectiles go farther and farther out. Not going to go with anything like Ricochet, because obviously you don't benefit from Chain. The +1 additional projectile is not really worth it on Siege Ballista, I don't think. So that's that. Fast and Deadly, really good. I really like what they added to Fast and Deadly here. The 100% increased blink arrow and mirror arrow cooldown recovery speed. That's gonna make it's gonna make your escape options feel pretty good. And then accuracy rating is doubled. Obviously, being a Siege Ballista build, stacking dexterity, accuracy is not really ever a problem, but this just kind of closes your gap on you know, being hit capped more or less, because I think hit cap is 95%. So the higher and closer you get, you know, and honestly, more accuracy is better for your crit, this is a crit build. And then powerful precision. Now the thing that I actually really like about powerful precision is when Pierce was reworked, Siege Ballista went from piercing all targets to piercing a certain amount. And that's not that big of a deal until you get to like these really insane pack sizes. And the other thing that I like about it is that you get 100% critical strike chance, again, going on the fact that you're crit. And everything that's near you is going to be pierced, and it's not going to count towards your pierce count. So, you know, let's just say you could pierce 12 targets. The ones that are directly around you are not going to impact, or they're not going to count towards your pierce count. So I think this is pretty good right here. You could also go Rupture if you really want to. You could go Endless Munitions if you wanted to do that as well. You probably don't have to pick up Powerful Precision. It's kind of all up to you. But the big thing is Gathering Winds and Fast and Deadly. Definitely. Oh, Tailwind's going to be so good. Anyway, pretty normal tree. You're going to level bows. You know, try to get a Storm Cloud right away. It's pretty normal. You're going to grab all the elemental nodes, such as Primeval Force. You're going to get these crit nodes, such as Lethality, Heartseeker, Forces of Nature, Revenge of the Hunted, which recently got a small little buff. And yeah, everything you're going to be doing is going to be geared towards getting pretty much as much dexterity on the passive tree as possible. Now, like I said, this passive tree is pretty normal for a crit bow build, with the exception of some of this pathing over here. You obviously path this way, so you can grab Totem Exile, which is really, really good. And with the addition of Tailwind, it's going to feel really nice if it works for the placement speed. And then, you know, grabbing Constitution. All this stuff is pretty normal. You're probably going to want to get Dexterity on your jewels as well, including, like down here, we use the Jewel Fluid Motion, just mostly because it is an incredibly efficient way just to get the Dexterity that you need. And, you know, they're inexpensive. You could swap this out later if you want. You could use a rare jewel later on if you wanted to, but I like Fluid Motion down here. I didn't use it with my first few builds, but now I kind of use it quite a bit. And the goal really is to get 800 Dexterity with Siege Ballista. So you could use Shaper's Touch. Shaper's Touch could give you 200 life. That would be your ultimate goal. And honestly, there's quite a bit of flexibility in the gear, so let's go ahead and look at that. Outside of the Iron Commander, you don't have to use a drill neck. Like, drill neck it's good, but you could use a rare quiver. You could use a rare quiver. You could get something with Wed and crit multi on it, all that stuff. More life, like it's fine. Any quiver with an additional arrow would be really good. Okay. This is another slot that you have some flexibility in, a Devoto's Devotion. This just gives you a lot of movement speed and potentially up to 65 dexterity, which is pretty good. But you could also use the Starconias, which would give you more life. You won't get the movement speed. You'll get a little bit less attack speed, but you'll potentially get more dexterity and, well, 100 life, because Starconia is pretty good. And it gives you more evasion than Starconias, than Devoto's. Not too much more. But Devoto's is hard to beat because of the 20% movement speed. And then the Chaos Resist. An Evasion chest piece, Assassin's Garb would work. You could use Hyri's Ire. You could potentially use the Fated Brisk Wrap. You could use a Perfect Form. All of these are pretty good because they all give you dexterity or percentage dexterity. Also, yeah, you kind of do whatever you want with the chest piece. I would prefer get a Shaper or Elder. I can't remember which one is crit, but I would rather get a Shaper chest piece so I could craft crit for attacks on it. I would much rather do that because then you could switch your gem sockets around a little bit. Shaper's Touch, again, another optional thing. You could just use rare gloves with attack speed and as much life on them as possible. In fact, a really good pair of rare gloves would be pretty comparable to Shaper's Touch up until you reach about 750 dexterity. So, and you don't have to get Shaper's Touch, but it's something that I'm probably going to end up using. Rare boots, as much life as possible, movement speed, pretty straightforward. Rare amulet, life, dexterity, elemental damage with weapons, crit multi, things like that. 2 opal rings would probably be good. You could also use coral rings if you are feeling a little vulnerable in life, because even right now at level 93, or this is level 95, you're still looking at about 5.5k life. So you could pick up more. Obviously, there are ways to do that, but yeah, that's that. A Darkness Enthroned Stygian Vice. Now, I wouldn't really suggest this usually, especially in League starters, but I think on this build is something you probably would really want to go for, just so you could get as much dexterity out of it as possible. Throw 2 jewels in there, get the 50% effect, and get yourself, a belt with, 120 life and 34 dexterity, and maybe some, flat damage added to it, or damage if you haven't killed recently, or anything like that, or penetration if you haven't killed recently. Mostly being because you need the dexterity to get to 800 dex. And the only way you can get dexterity on a belt other than abyssal jewels is through essence crafting. And, essence crafting is AIDS, because you have to get all the essences. So I think going with the Stygian Vice and the Darkness Enthroned is a much better way to do it. Jewels, like I said, we're using 1 fluid motion. The rest of them probably just be life, dexterity, maybe crit multi, attack speed, whatever you want. Again, your goal is going to be 600 dexterity at first for 4 totems, and then 800 dexterity. While it will give you 5 totems, it's actually more for the life on your Shaper's Touch, and it just gets better and better and better. So that's that. I didn't go over the flasks. Silver Flask, Quicksilver, and a Wise Oak, and then the other 2 flasks could be Life Flask, or whatever you want to do. A little bit of flexibility at those last 2 slots outside of the Life Flask. For your links, on a 5 link, it would be Siege Ballista with elemental damage with attacks, added lightning, added cold, and critical damage. Let's see. Yeah, and critical damage would be your 5th link, with your 6th link being critical strikes, unless you had a Shaper chest piece which gave you plus 1% crit. Then you would go with something else. In fact, you could probably just use a Diamond Flask here to get yourself crit cap. In fact, let's just look at that real quick while I have you all here. We'll add this to build. Bam. 81% chance to crit with a Diamond Flask. Alright. So, then, obviously, if you have that 6th link, you could use something like Slower Projectiles or Elemental Focus. Elemental Focus is good to use on bosses. Because you're never, ever going to deal enough damage to shock or freeze bosses, so just kill them as fast as possible. Use an Elemental Focus. It's good to level one of these anyway. So, that's that. Your auras, Wrath, Herald of Thunder, Clarity. These are just what I like to use. You could use Herald of Ice if you really wanted to, but Wrath is really good. The only thing about Wrath is you need a lot of dexterity or intelligence. You're a little low on the intelligence, so you have to remember that, because to have a level 21 Wrath, you need 159 intelligence, and so getting that with 800 dexterity could potentially be a little hard. A Frenzy setup with GMP, Power Charge and Crit, Curse on Hit with LE Weakness. This is just, good to generate frenzies and power charges, and you will be spamming it quite a bit. And honestly, you'll do plenty of damage where you could kill a lot of trash. Like your dailies will be pretty easy with this because you don't even have to place your totems. It's going to be easy anyway, but this is just to maintain frenzy and power charges. And then a Lightning Golem. This is just for more attack speed because, You could use a flame golem if you want, but I like attack speed. The faster the character is, the smoother. So yeah, and then if you didn't see, this will be in the comments, or in this will be in the description down below. But we are going with Alira for the mana regen, crit multi, and the resist. So yeah, pretty much, you know, just like this with a kind of a basic setup, you're looking at 90,000 DPS per totem. And it will absolutely go up as you. That's on a. What was that on? That's on a 6 link. So about 77,000 DPS per totem. There were times when my tooltip in Leagues Past was well over 200,000 DPS per totem on a Siege Ballista. So I think with the addition of Tailwind, if it works. If it doesn't work, don't get me wrong, it will still be good because you're going to get more attack speed, more movement speed, right? But if it does work, then you're not gonna feel the need for the Siege Ballista Helm enchant from the Eternal Lab nearly as much. But if it works, this build will fly. It will go, it will feel really nice for a totem build. You know, if you've always been on the fence about a totem build and you think they're boring, this is definitely a gateway totem build because you're active. You feel like you're a part of the fight, and it's just like you're commanding an army around you all the time. And they have really long range. So yeah, there you guys go. Deadeye Siege Ballista build. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Path of building will be below as well. And yeah, hopefully this works. See you guys later.